Welcome to Sweden.
I thought we agreed we weren't going to do this.
Oops.
Sorry to all the Swedes who listen, and that is not us making fun of a very nice accent, actually.
Absolutely not. It's an honest effort.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful country with a beautiful accent, as well as a beautiful language that they speak themselves. We're delighted here to be talking about Sweden. It's a Sweden deep dive.
It's a Sweden deep dive, and it is the first of our pop culture tier list.
This is exciting because ultimately what this gets us towards is the definitive ranking of all the countries. Now, I'm not saying we're going to do every country in the world. That might be a stretch. But over time, our list will get longer, and we'll be able to definitively say, objectively, what countries are better than others. That's exciting.
In terms of pop culture.
Exactly. It's just a shame that for this first one, it's all in a vacuum. Like this is our first one. So we'll have a score here for Sweden across multiple categories, but that won't really mean anything in isolation because it's not relative to anything. So as we go on, I think as we do more of these, they'll become just incrementally more fun each time.
Yeah.
But that's not to say this one won't be fun. This will be a lot of fun.
No, absolutely. And listeners, you'll learn with us as we go, not just about Sweden, but also about how we rank these things. In essence, what we've done is we've chosen 5 core categories, which make up the template on which we evaluate every country. And then we have kind of a wild card category to up or downgrade a country's pop culture efforts. The categories are as follows: music, film and TV, that's one category, literature, cuisine, and sport. Now, for each of these categories, Neil and I will review what their contributions have been, and we will give them a score of 1 to 5, depending on those contributions. Starting with 1, which is little significance in terms of the uniqueness and success from a pop culture perspective that country has provided in that category, all the way to 5, which is we cannot imagine a world without that country's contributions in that category. Coming up to a total of 30 points when we include also the wild card, and that will allow us to start tiering every country on Earth.
Bear with us for the 200 episodes or so that we'll spend on it.
Exactly. Neil, how do you feel about this?
I'm actually hugely excited. I hope we do Sweden justice. I hope we, the Swedish listeners will let us know, I'm sure, but I hope they come away feeling that we've given it a fair treatment here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Any initial thoughts on Sweden before we provide our listeners with a quick 1-minute summary on the country?
I think, broadly speaking, most people out there in the world are sleeping on Sweden, basically, you know?
Wow.
Like,
okay.
I think just to be speak in very broad strokes, right? Sweden has a number of dark horses out in the world, and we'll get into a few of them here, who have, despite maybe not being household names, have had an influence on the world, which is like second to none almost in some of these categories, as well as just being an amazing country to go and visit, to meet the people, to experience. I just think in many cases, when people are booking holidays, when they're booking trips, you know, for some reason, their mind, even in the Nordics, goes elsewhere. They even go to Helsinki, or they go to Oslo or Copenhagen,
right,
or even Iceland before they go to Sweden, kind of. I think that's a shame. So that's my top line summary, let's say.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think, from my perspective, Stockholm, a top tier European city. Fantastic place to spend some time, weekend trip, whatever you like.
100%.
Yes. So, listeners, we're going to start everything off courtesy of our sponsor, Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia, by providing you a quick 1-minute snippet on the country. Neil, are you ready?
I think so, yeah.
All right. You timing me?
Let's do it.
Sweden, formerly the Kingdom of Sweden, is a Nordic country located on the Scandinavian peninsula in northern Europe. It borders Norway to the west and north, Finland to the east, and is connected to Denmark in the southwest by a bridge tunnel across the Öresund.
We love that bridge tunnel. That's a great bridge tunnel.
We've been on it many times.
Oh, many, yeah.
Expensive to go on, though, unless you're riding the train.
But still, amazing.
Worth it every time. At 447,425 square kilometers, that's 172,000 square miles, Sweden is the largest Nordic country, the 3rd largest country in the European Union, and the 5th largest country in Europe.
That's insane.
It's massive.
People
if you
forget
flip
that
it,
too. Yeah. And you flip it, you get to Rome or something, right?
Yeah, I think even further. You get almost to Sicily, so
Insane.
almost to Africa.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
The capital and largest city is Stockholm. Sweden has a population of just 10.5 million people, As a result, it has a low population density of 25.5 inhabitants per square kilometers. That's 66 per square mile.
A lot of empty space there.
Very sparse. With around 87% of Swedes residing in urban areas, which cover just 1.5% of the entire land area in the central and southern half of the country.
Jeez, there you go.
Welcome to Sweden.
Welcome to Sweden.
Who needs Lonely Planet?
Wikipedia's all you need. Jeez.
Yes, thank you once again to our sponsor, Wikipedia.
They paid big bucks for that. Yeah.
Oh, as they do with things. Wikipedia, you know.
Definitely. That for-profit organization. Yes.
Good. So, should we get into our first category,
Absolutely.
Neil, about Sweden?
I'm ready to go, yeah.
First category is music.
And you can't say music in Sweden without
saying ABBA.
Yeah.
The GOAT of Swedish music, as far as I'm concerned at least. They are the best-selling band originating in continental Europe.
Wow. I didn't know that, actually.
Isn't that something?
That's quite huge, yeah, because that's no small feat. There's still quite a lot of bands to be included in that list.
Absolutely. But think if you take, what you could say in terms of impact as far as bands or, groups of four go, we're talking Beatles level impact to an extent, right? If you're looking at how many number ones they have when you take an ABBA greatest hits.
Yeah.
And if you're at any party, wedding, whatever, and you want a great way to bridge the generational divide, play some ABBA. Everyone will love it and be on the dance.
100%. ABBA has kind of creeped back into my life very strongly recently. I was at a karaoke bar in Copenhagen a few weeks ago, and we were there for quite a few hours. Actually, I will admit, it was great. And the only artist that was played, the only song that was played multiple times was ABBA songs. So you cannot, like any karaoke bar in the Nordics, I would argue, you can't get through a night without ABBA, if not 2 or 3 times the same ABBA songs. Unbelievable stuff. Absolute
legends. And they started by winning Eurovision, actually, with the song Waterloo.
Yeah, what a song, though.
Unreal.
Like, really. And I hold the Eurovision not in too high esteem, as many, I suppose, don't these days. But still, there are a few gems in that history. And ABBA absolutely smashing it every single time is part of it. Jeez, they're so good.
ABBA, absolutely fantastic. For anybody that is interested, there is an ABBA museum in Stockholm, which I went to actually with my father. We had a few hours to kill one afternoon, and he got his picture taken with Benny and Agneta and all the others.
And is it worthwhile? Like, it's a good museum? Yeah.
It was all right. I mean, it's like borderline wax museum territory.
Yeah, fair enough. Still,
but maybe you like wax museums.
No comment.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
But yeah, ABBA, I think you can't say enough good about it. Also, as a musician, as a bassist, my God, there's some serious bass lines in it. It's, I can't remember the bassist's name, but like there's some great YouTube clips of the bassist on Dancing Queen, just playing the clip a few years hence after having recorded it. And I've tried to learn that bass line myself, and it's deceptively difficult. It goes all over the place. It dances like crazy, and it's like just an amazingly put together song. So yeah, I just think ABBA, there's not much more I can say other than I'm just permanently in awe of them and think they're amazing.
Absolutely. One of Sweden's greatest exports when we talk about music. Others, let's call them the also-rans, are Europe, Roxette, Ace of Base, and Eagle Eye Cherry.
Eagle Eye Cherry was a surprising one on this list. Save Tonight. A few one-hit wonders in here. I mean, Europe, beyond the Final Countdown, do they have other songs? I think they have like 1 or 2 other songs maybe.
Yeah, but I would say they're really Final Countdown based.
100%, 100%. Yeah. And as a little side note, if I may take us off the Sweden train for 1 second, good friends of the show run a podcast called The Fine Ale Countdown. If anyone is interested, just plugging a different podcast here, just to, if anyone's interested in beer reviews, a group of Irish guys, friends of mine doing a beer podcast. So The Fine Ale Countdown, heavily inspired by The Final Countdown by Europe.
Yes. Fantastic. I love the play on words there. So yeah, Europe, very much Final Countdown. Roxette, do you remember Roxette?
I can't say I do, actually. I'm not great with Roxette.
Do you want me to throw one out there for you?
Yeah.
Listen to your heart.
Yeah. See, there you go. Like, these are all, like, you'll know these songs instantly, right, once you hear them. But for some reason, Roxette doesn't really occupy a big space in my brain. Yeah.
All right. That's
neither
fair.
with Ace of Base, actually, I have to say.
Ace of Base, I'm not going to give that one out for you. Because I don't remember it.
Exactly. Yeah. But Eagle Eye Cherry, shout out. That's Save Tonight. That's a banger.
That's I was at a wedding actually 2 years ago where they played Save Tonight, and everyone went insane.
It's
like
unbelievable.
headbanging, air guitars.
Yeah.
Never seen
You
something
name
like
it.
it. It's an amazing song.
It is a great karaoke song as well, as are many Swedish songs, in fact. Great
there you go.
karaoke songs.
The country of karaoke.
There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Along with that, Sweden is the second most successful country ever at Eurovision with 6 wins.
That's pretty good. 6 is good.
Second only to
Ireland. So
with 7.
satisfying. I mean, the only sad thing about that is like that's a stat that has its days are numbered, and we're never winning again, basically, unfortunately. Unless
the
something-
Irish.
Yeah. Sorry, when I say we, of course, I mean me being Irish. But it's a shame that we won it over and over and over again, sometimes multiple years in a row, and then suddenly fell out of favor with Europe, and then that was it. So we haven't come even remotely close to even placing in the top half, I think, since Mickey Joe Hart in 2003 or whatever it was. It's not looking good for us on the Eurovision stage. So that's a bit sad. So I think we're going to lose that record soon enough. If Sweden probably be the ones to overtake us, they know what they're doing.
For them, it's a huge deal because they have basically the lead in how you qualify is through this Melody Festivalen, right?
Exactly.
That's like a 2-week long thing, basically, just to get into send someone there.
Fully televised, like a huge thing. Everyone gets into it. Yeah.
So they dress up, they love that stuff.
And they put proper production values behind it. You can see every year, if you tune into the Eurovision, like Sweden comes, they don't mess around. They didn't come to play. They're here to win every year, Fair play.
It's all about the music in
impressed.
Sweden. And just disclaimer to the listeners, you can write us in with things we haven't mentioned here. We're giving the highlights, right? Because we got a bunch of categories to get through.
Basically, we're trying to justify our scores here right now.
Exactly.
That's what we're trying to do, is to show that we have a reason to say what we say about about these things.
We come into the 2000s and we have the absolute the rise and explosion of Swedish techno.
Insane.
Talking Swedish House Mafia, Avicii, rest in peace, even Bass Hunter.
Swedish House Mafia, who I'm not a huge fan myself, but did you know they had to be banned from playing in Ireland for a while because they're, for some reason, their concerts started to attract a kind of an undesirable crowd.
Really?
Which inevitably led to weird violence at Irish concerts of Swedish House Mafia. Very strange. Yeah.
Because I saw them play live, but that was at a festival. That was at Tomorrowland. So
okay. Yeah.
Maybe that's...
No, but I think it's an Irish thing rather than anything. Like just that, a subset of Irish fans are weird.
The ones that used to watch Eurovision.
Like, maybe not. Maybe that Venn diagram doesn't quite overlap. But but that's my main understanding of Swedish House Mafia.
Okay.
Unfortunately. Okay. Although Avicii, I have to say, that's levels. Just incredible.
Unbelievable.
Force them out.
Yeah. I broke a couch actually with from jumping up too hard at levels at one point, but we won't get into that.
You could sue for that. That was their fault. Completely.
Yeah, absolutely. The couch's fault or
no, Avicii's fault.
Yeah, absolutely. And then now this is something interesting that came out in our research, which I honestly had zero clue about. They punch above their weight for songwriting and for producing.
100%. Now, you can't have this section without talking about Max Martin in particular.
Apparently.
Now, I'm not going to sit here and pretend I knew who Max Martin was, for many years. I only found this out through Reddit like a few years ago, where there was today I learned about, did you know that one Swedish guy is responsible for basically every massive song from the past 20 years? And of course, that sounds like an exaggeration, and it kind of is. But even still, if I just read you this list, you would not believe that one guy wrote all of these songs. So we're talking Baby One More Time by Britney Spears.
Wow.
It's Gonna Be Me by NSYNC. I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry.
Tune.
So What by Pink. And by the way, he did both.
So What by Pink.
Yeah. And he did those 2 songs in the same year, Kissed a Girl and So What. He was on fire. He did My Life Would Suck Without You by Kelly Clarkson. He did Teenage Dream by Katy Perry.
Ooh.
He did a few other Britney Spears songs like Hold It Against Me. He did One More Night by Maroon 5, Roar by Katy Perry, Dark Horse by Katy Perry, Shake It Off by Taylor Swift, Blank Space by Taylor Swift, Bad Blood featuring Kendrick Lamar, and we haven't even gotten to The Weeknd, which is Can't Feel My Face. He did Can't Stop the Feeling with Justin Timberlake. He did Blinding Lights by The Weeknd.
These have almost all been number one hits at one point or another.
These are all number one singles. So
this is unbelievable.
He has 25 Billboard number one Hot 100s to his name. And that's not even mentioning the millions of awards that he's won over the years. He's won Songwriter of the Year about 12 times. Generally, in fact, every year from 2011 to 2018, he won it. This guy is absolutely unstoppable. Max Martin. So
Wow.
has had a little bit of a quiet phase now. So his biggest hit was Coldplay and BTS My Universe in 2021, most recently. So since 21, he hasn't had a number one. So let's give him some time to recuperate and recover.
Okay.
But this man, Max Martin, has single-handedly basically made the careers of most of the household names that we know today, and we don't even know him.
Unbelievable.
It's insane.
The best artists from all over the world going to work with him, and he just happens to be Swedish.
Exactly.
Look at that.
Just an absolute maniac. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I just think, sorry, go on.
No, please.
No, but it's not just him. We have quite a few others as well. I was trying to find the producer of the Childish Gambino song Redbone. If you remember that, it's another guy.
He was also Swedish.
Yeah, he did the music for Black Panther as well.
Okay, really?
Yeah, I'm going to have to quickly search. But in any case, long story short, we're talking a country that punches way above its weight.
It sounds like it,
Musically,
absolutely.
and from a
Musically
songwriting
in
perspective.
total. And then we also have a way to listen to music which came from Sweden, and that is Spotify, where some of you are listening to this podcast
Right
on.
now. So talk about meta. Like we were
Unreal.
praising Spotify not only in the last episode, saying how what a great platform it is, especially now for podcasters as they're pivoting towards that, where we have more interactivity in the platform. We can do Q&As and polls, etc. It's absolutely in my view, the premium, the best music streaming service there is. And
Absolutely.
I know that's a bit controversial here in Denmark. Most people use iTunes, or the Apple Music Store as it's called now. But in any case, I'm personally so sold on Spotify as a service. I think it's fantastic.
It changed the game, and
100%.
Apple had to actually adopt a ton of its tactics
Exactly.
to be able to be relevant in that space still.
We do love that, the disruptors.
Absolutely.
But in any case, we're now, with their household name, once again, Sweden putting itself on the map with not only music, but music streaming services. And of course, in a way, it's not surprising that it comes from Sweden, because what a strong country for music. And I guess that brings us actually towards the end of the section, because we're talking 5 stars, at least from my point of view.
Yeah, so 5 is we cannot imagine a world without those contributions. I was originally leaning towards 4, which is highly influential on a global scale. But can I imagine a world without Swedish techno, plus ABBA, plus Max Martin, our producer,
Certainly
plus
not.
Spotify? Honestly, no. So it's a 5 for me.
It's a 5. Like, they had a 5 already with ABBA, and everything else was a bonus. I almost wish that we could go higher than 5, but we can't, of course.
But we can't.
We need to
Absolutely.
play it within the realms of this system.
There's rules, but a 5, this will put, no matter what happens on the next category, it will place Sweden into the tier of the most musically relevant countries on earth.
In fact, it's currently our GOAT on the list because it's
number
the
one.
first. Now, what'll be interesting is after we've done a few, and let's say there's multiple 5s, we may have to go back and say, right, let's sort this list out. If we have multiple 5s on music, after say we do 5 or 6 countries, then we gotta.
Then the bracket comes into play.
We'll have to do a playoff of some kind.
Absolutely.
But before we jump off music, it was Ludwig Göransson. Just to
Ludwig Göransson.
So
Okay.
everyone who doesn't know him, look him up. He's done some amazing stuff, let alone Redbone and the
Fantastic.
Black Panther soundtrack. There we go. Had to make sure I got that in.
Fantastic. So here we are to our second category, which is film and TV.
Fantastic.
Again, we're not having everything here, listeners, but just some highlights.
Not everything everywhere all at once, sadly.
No, exactly. Done with that.
Yeah.
Starting with directors, the legend Ingmar Bergman.
Yeah. Wish I could claim to be a scholar of his works and had an extensive back catalogue of views here. I haven't and haven't.
I've seen a few, but that's about it. Fanny and Alexander, for example.
I've seen that's actually on streaming services actually. So I need to just sit down and put 3 hours aside and watch that actually. It's supposed to be absolutely incredible.
Yeah, it's a good movie. I don't think it plays to everybody's tastes in this century, but you can definitely see. Do we like to make analogies? We like
love
to make
analogies.
analogies.
We love to postulate.
We could call Ingmar Bergman, in terms of his influence on European cinema, the Swedish Alfred Hitchcock.
Yeah, I picked that up. That's
Yeah.
I
that
at least
fair?
like I'm showing
Swedes
my
will love
ignorance
me
here.
saying that.
Swedes will love that. But in any case, I haven't seen. I don't think a huge amount of his movies. Dare I say any? In fact, however, I've heard enough about film and film history and basically done enough film studies courses and such that I know that he's had an insanely important role in film history.
And his influence lives on. So there was even, I think 18 months ago, there was an HBO series with Jessica Chastain and Oscar Isaac called Scenes from a Marriage, which was actually
it's a remake.
inspired by Bergman's work. Yes, remake, and it became like a 6-part miniseries. Heavy stuff though.
No, sorry, I tell a lie. To that point, I have seen one, The Seventh Seal. Saw that when I was a youngster. Lovely, very out there portrayal of someone navigating the circles of hell. It's quite like for a movie made in 57, I think it was here. A bit. Probably I wasn't ready for it. I was a bit too young for it, but I can say that I have one in my list. So there we go.
Okay.
But we have some homework to do, it seems.
Yes, it does. We need to catch up on Ingmar Bergman, the modern day Ingmar Bergman from Sweden, being Ruben Östlund.
Oh, there we go.
And you love him.
People are begging me to shut up about Ruben Östlund because I just keep mentioning him at every opportunity in my life as well as on this podcast. Triangle of Sadness, The Square, Force Majeure, just incredible.
Force Majeure #1 for me.
Yeah, that's a home run. And we will not talk about the American remake of Force Majeure, which exists apparently.
With Will Ferrell and Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
It's disgusting. Nothing against those actors or actresses, but no, that's a no thanks from me.
Will Ferrell, funnily enough, married to a Swede.
Yeah, I wonder
for many years.
Is there anything to that? Is that how it ended up getting made? Did he maybe see the movie and be like, I got to be in this. I got to be in the remake of this.
His Swedish origins are like a big thing about his brand now. You see him also being like the face of a fintech company in Copenhagen called Lunar.
Yeah.
And he alludes to all of that. So I think so.
Yeah, he's hanging around here for sure.
Hanging around here for sure.
Keep an eye out.
Yes.
But in any case, like for the two people left in the world who haven't heard me rave about Triangle of Sadness or Ruben Östlund in general, just get on it. Have a good time. Go see everything.
Exactly. And listeners, remember here we're talking about global impact. I'm sure there's always directors, actors, actresses, which, within Sweden hold outsized influence. But here we're talking about global impact.
Exactly.
You want to hear about the actors and actresses?
Yeah, hit me up.
Ingrid Bergman from way back in the day. Dolph Lundgren, Neil.
Yeah.
Do you remember Dolph?
I do. Like, that's one you would kind of not directly, at least for me, I wouldn't go Sweden straight away.
Well, because you think Ivan Drago, so you think Soviet Union, but he's Swedish.
Sneaky. Very
a
sneaky
legend
Dolph.
of the game.
Yeah.
The Skarsgård family,
Huge.
The father and 2 sons, and I think even brothers, and
firing
all over
on
the
all
place.
cylinders, these guys. Talk about cleaning up in Hollywood,
all over the place at the moment. Alicia Vikander, who our friend Roy from Chicago wrote us about a couple of weeks ago.
Who I had to kind of Google a bit, but I understand that she's been Lara Croft and a few other things.
Absolutely. So she's very relevant at the moment. She's touted as one of the next big female movie stars in Hollywood.
There you go.
Yes. And then the other thing I have here is on TV, the half of the television series, The Bridge.
Arguably the good half, you could say. Or at least, from what I remember, I watched a bit of the first season and I remember thinking that all the Swedish parts and the Swedish characters were a little bit more compelling, a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, that's true.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
I feel you.
I think so.
The Danes
I need to
won't
get back
like
into
that.
it. No, they certainly won't. But it's a lost cause with me and the Danes. But,
exactly. There you go. So that's on film and TV.
Yeah, you can tell we have had less energy for this one.
Yeah.
No offense to Sweden. I
mean, not so much from Sweden on this one in terms of global impact.
If I was being brutally honest, if it wasn't for Ruben Östlund, I would actually be hovering towards a really low number here. Just because there are so many other countries where I would go way higher.
Right.
So I'm going to let Ruben pull my score up a bit. And I'm going to go, because of those 3 films that I mentioned earlier on, Triangle of Sadness, The Square, Force Majeure, I'm going to go with a 3.
A 3, so somewhat significant in terms of uniqueness and success.
Especially because of that recent Oscar nomination for Triangle of Sadness.
Okay. I'm going to go with a 2. Significant in terms of success, not so much uniqueness. I definitely think, the contribution has been... relatively limited, as you would expect from such a small country. So they did it was the opposite effect, of course, on music, right? So a bit maybe a victim of that success. But 2 from me. So that gives it a 1.5 from us.
Ooh, no, is that right? 2.5.
2.5. Yes, listeners, we are a bit lost in postulation.
Yeah, there we go.
Live fact checking. So that's film and TV. Our next category is literature, Neil.
Yeah. We flagged this one. At least I flagged this one before we started, thinking at least for me, I won't have too much to postulate upon here.
Okay, but
happy to be brought along for the ride. Yeah.
That's okay. I grew up. This is very emotional for me. I grew up with my father reading me bedtime stories from Astrid Lindgren.
Wow.
Pippi Longstockings, Emil.
Who's Emil? Is that is Emil in the Pippi Longstocking?
No, Emil is Emil.
Okay,
It's another
it's a guy.
how do you call it?
Yeah.
Franchise within the Astrid Lindgren
Verse.
verse. Exactly.
The Longstocking verse.
More than 100 million copies of her book sold in over 80 countries.
I mean, that's impressive.
Yeah. And there's a lot of IP there, right? So there's been a ton of Pippi Longstocking shows, films for kids, etc. I think outsized influence in terms of that.
And do we have time? Maybe let's take 1 minute. Can you sell me on Pippi Longstocking? Like, why do people like it or her?
Pippi Longstockings is very much a free-spirited young lady coming from a sailor father.
Okay.
And you just kind of follow her adventures all over the place, and very inspiring, I think, for a lot of kids while they're growing up. Very friendly as well. Yeah.
This is before all the kids' characters had to have superpowers and
right, exactly.
Yeah, she's just getting up to all sorts of stuff.
Exactly, absolutely, just very feel good, heartwarming.
Okay, very wholesome kind of stuff.
Exactly,
nothing scary or anything.
No, absolutely not. Pippi Longstockings.
Okay,
yeah. Can highly recommend. You might not enjoy it as much as you would have, 25 years ago.
But aged out of the target demo, but still.
Yeah, and Emil, a great guy as well. I can't really remember what it was about, but it was right to me.
Good guy.
Exactly.
Love it.
We love Emil. And then another big highlight here is Stieg Larsson and the rise of Nordic noir and the Nordic crime novels. I'm not saying he brought about that, but he really globalized that success.
It's kind of the same way as like the Dan Brown had his role on the Da Vinci Code becoming what went on to become a cultural success, and then that kind of spawned interest in that genre of thriller books. Similarly, I think The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, etc. Those films also probably introduced a lot of people to this genre, right?
Absolutely. And you had Stephen Fincher actually, right, doing one of them.
Exactly. So, never saw them, but I hear they're good
with Daniel Craig.
Yeah,
also.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Surprised that didn't come up in our Daniel Craig deep dive.
Exactly. Because it was like in between Bonds, and he actually did quite a good job playing Mikkel Blomqvist.
There you go.
The protagonist.
Did he do an accent when he was?
No, he did not. I think he kept his British one.
Nice. Good call.
Exactly. So, based off of this, what we have, unless you have anything else to add on Swedish literature.
Sadly not, yeah.
And there is a lot of Swedish literature. Of course, it's the home of the Nobel Prize, and they've made sure that a lot of Nobel Prizes in literature have gone to their very own.
Good.
But these are, in terms of pop culture, what we're highlighting here.
Nice. Yeah.
Thoughts based on this?
Well, I think the description that we have for our 2 is quite accurate here. I would almost veer towards a 1 here.
Ooh.
However, I'm going to give it a 2, meaning significant in terms of uniqueness, but not particularly significant, let's say.
So I'm going to say, although there is not that massive scale behind it, I'm going to go with a 3, somewhat significant in terms of uniqueness and success.
Okay. I think that's fair, because we end up with a 2.5. It brings it kind of middle of the road on a 5-star scale. Yeah,
another 2.5.
There we go.
So Sweden, well done on literature. Now, Neil, we get into something very interesting, which will probably be one of the most polarizing categories throughout as we get into countries, and that's cuisine.
Hell yeah. Love that. So I've had the privilege of spending a lot of time in Sweden, actually, over the last few years.
Yes.
And have had many opportunities to try Swedish food of various types, and it's great. I absolutely love it. I think the key highlights for me have been the kind of fish or marine based kind of stuff. We've had crayfish parties, which are cray as the name would imply. I've had all sorts of desserts and cakes and buns and what have you. Semla. Fika. Oh yeah, fika, huge. Obviously, any conference you go to in Sweden is punctuated. Each hour almost is punctuated by a break where you go and have coffee and buns or
by diabetes.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a miracle that their blood sugar is at a normal level. But all of that aside, where I'm most happy culinarily is in an IKEA having some meatballs.
Well, there you go.
It's the highlight of every trip.
Which you don't even need to go to Sweden to do.
I know.
Just go to your local IKEA.
Talk about a global export, right? You can do this anywhere. Yeah. Love it. Absolutely. Everything about that meal is just fantastic. I love it.
Okay.
So for me, I'm actually quite strong positive on this.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. I'm a big fan of fika. I have a huge sweet tooth, so I love when I'm in Sweden, staying at a hotel or whatever, and, they ring the bell every couple hours. Oh, there's more fika that you can take. I love that. The meatballs, okay. I'm not crazy about them. The smorgasbord, for me, very similar. Swedes will come for me. Danes will also come for me, but very similar to the Danish smørrebrød. Yeah, I'm in terms of, you know,
You sound a bit lukewarm on this.
impact. I'm very lukewarm. I'm struggling because I have Swedish family now.
Oh, no. Yeah.
And yeah, that's not an easy one. But I can't give it. If I think about all the countries we're eventually going to touch on,
Yeah.
and there's going to be relative scoring, I can't rank it too highly, knowing
fair.
what's going to be coming. Right?
And there is also one major negative that we haven't even touched on, which is surströmming. I don't know if you ever had surströmming, did you?
Tell me about it.
So for anyone who doesn't know, surströmming is absolutely appalling. This is rotten herring in a can.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
that when you open it, you are advised to open it underwater outside in a bucket because the odor of surströmming when you open it is absolutely foul. And I wish I was exaggerating, but genuinely, I was exposed to this.
I've seen a video of you trying to down one. Actually.
Exactly. My lovely colleagues on a team build once forced/highly encouraged me to try surströmming, and it was the worst thing. Not only because of the horrible smell, which is truly revolting, but also the fact that after you eat it, it kind of stays with you. The taste kind of hangs around, you know. So it ruins not only that moment, but like the rest of your evening, basically. So I swore at that point, I'll never have surströmming again, and I will go on a crusade to stop other people having it, which is what I'm doing here now.
Do you like herring?
Oh yeah. Love herring.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's
I enjoy a bit of herring. Yeah. And I know herring is an acquired taste and not for everybody, but like I can enjoy some herring.
Okay.
But surströmming is a joke. It's absolutely ridiculous. What I will give a shout out to though is if you're ever in Malmo, there's a museum of disgusting food where you can go and try all sorts of disgusting food, including surströmming. So if this has piqued the interest of the listener who is ever going to find himself in Malmo, I do highly recommend that.
Well, I will be in Malmo soon. We have some family there, so I wasn't even aware of this museum. Been to Malmo many times.
It's kicking off. People are talking about it. Yeah, it's quite fun.
Yeah, definitely. So, Neil, what do we give the Swedes on their contributions to cuisine from a pop culture perspective?
Now, the only thing is as well, how many Michelin restaurants, how many, world-beating Michelin restaurants do we know from Sweden, really? It's. I'm sure there are great ones, but...
Or flip the coin, how many Swedish restaurants have you been to in Dublin or London or New York?
Yeah. The more we talk about it, actually, the clearer I'm getting. So, unfortunately, despite my because I have to put my spin on. I can't just be like a robot. Like I have to give a personal touch to it. So I'm going to give it a 3, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, because
this is really like Irish scoring here.
I know. I hear all the intellectual reasons as to why it should be lower, but then again, I've had a very positive experience with Swedish food. So
very
it's
fair.
It's a 3.
So it's a 3 from Neil.
Yep.
Which is somewhat significant in terms of uniqueness and success.
Nice.
I'm going to give it a 1. Our first one.
What you might.
Little significance in terms of uniqueness and success. That doesn't mean I don't like it. I'm evaluating from that perspective.
Yeah.
But
no, I do see it. I do see it. Yeah.
So a 1 from me, a 3 from you makes this a 2 on cuisine.
Wow.
So Sweden.
I feel kind of bad for Sweden now.
Peak that music.
Yeah, I sure did. I shouldn't have opened with music. Yeah.
Now, the final 2 categories, what we have left is sport, and then we have a wild card.
Mm-hmm.
Sport. I'll drill into this, starting with football, soccer. The men's national team got second place at the 1958 World Cup, which I believe actually took place in Sweden, where they lost to Pelé's Brazil. Semi-finalists in Euro 1992, so that was the peak of their footballing success. Shout outs now, of course, to Grenoli. Used to play on my boyhood club, 3 Swedes together in Milano, very famous, Gren, Nordahl and Lidl. So that's just for all the football nerds out there. The one you will know a bit better is, of course, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, still playing also for the Swedish national team last weekend at age 41.
Insane. And what a character. Like I think he single-handedly will bump up this score for me, at least, because he's just so odd. Also in a Swedish context, in a country which has Jantelaw, which is, the belief that everyone's roughly equal, or like nobody's no better or worse than anyone else. He is like a complete contradiction of that, and everyone's okay with it. Everyone's like, yeah, but he's Zlatan. That's fine.
He's Zlatan.
He's the one exception where it's
a godly status.
Yeah, exactly. And he's like so full of himself, so arrogant, and you would think that people would be like, oh, what an asshole. No, they're all like, he's great. We love him. So he's I love him as the exception to the rule. The special one. He is
there you go. Yeah. And their women's national team is becoming a powerhouse, always contending for championships at the moment, and I think we'll be fishing for the first ever World Cup later this year, actually.
Fantastic.
Yes. I've had great experience also with Swedish football supporters going and traveling around. I was at a match in France once for a Euro, Italy against Sweden, where 90% of the stadium was Swedes, and they were great. And after the match, they all stayed in the city, even though they lost, and they just had great vibes with us. I mean, they were all wasted out of their minds, but,
but not causing any trouble.
Not belligerent. It was very nice to see.
Good, because not every country. There'll be other countries when we get to the fans where we'll have a
exactly
thing or two
negative points maybe
for sure.
Then there's hockey actually. Sweden is very big on ice hockey. It's considered one of the big 6 countries, along with other powerhouses like Canada and the US. Their men won the Olympic gold twice, as recently as 1994 and 2006.
Didn't know about the 06. Okay, nice.
So
nice.
actually more successful in terms of hockey than football when you're looking at trophies and medals.
Wow.
Tennis, we give a shout out to our guy, Bjorn Borg.
Lovely.
Of the underwear.
Of the underwear. I know him better for the underwear than the tennis at this point. Yeah.
And then a couple more within the fad sports category, which are huge in Sweden. One is handball, where they're, along with Denmark, 2 of the powerhouses within
obsessed.
European handball. Yeah. Obsessed. And that's a sport that we gave a shout out to potentially be on the rise globally, right?
Watch this space.
Yeah. And bandy. Do you know bandy, Neil?
I wish I knew more about bandy. Yeah.
So it's like on this huge rink, much bigger than a hockey rink.
Yeah.
They got a bit of a different stick, some different rules, and
It's kind of hockey vibes though, isn't it?
Hockey vibes, absolutely.
Isn't it a bit like uni hockey, or is that something else? No, you know what I mean?
Else.
Yeah, okay.
But bandy, very big.
Bandy.
And then of course they're big skiers.
Yeah.
Ton of medals at the Olympics in cross country, but they also had some great times with a lady called Persson in downhill skiing in the early 2000s.
Well, there you go. I've never had the privilege of going to a Swedish ski resort, but it is on my list while I'm in this part of the world, to catch a bus from Copenhagen at like 6 a.m. and then you get to somewhere like Iseberg up in
or Åre, who was runner-up to host the 2026 Winter Olympics, actually.
Yeah. And like obviously most Swedes prefer to go south when it comes to skiing, but I think for a bit of practice, a bit of shaking off the rust, the inevitable rust that I for sure will have when I go skiing, I think it might be a good call for next winter.
Absolutely, that's great. So Neil, we've gotten a bit of the overview on Swedish sport, and what do we think here?
It's tricky.
Score?
It's tricky, and we obviously know it's not a 5. Let's get that out of the way, and it's also not a 1. So I think we're kind of somewhere in the middle here. And what I'm really stuck on is this a 3, or could it maybe be a 4?
It's borderline.
Yeah.
I could see why.
Highly influential, because really like quite influential. It's not like they've gone and invented any sports that went on to become global phenomena, but they do have some global names in sport. But then again, if you challenge someone to name 5 Swedish sports people, because everyone will say Zlatan and they'll say maybe a few more.
Yeah.
Bjorn
the older
Borg.
generation maybe Borg, but probably ours not even.
Yeah. And then you'll have like a Formula 1 driver, Ericsson, or these kind of. But I feel like that's going to hold Sweden back on this one, actually. Unfortunately,
sports is a difficult one to score highly on. Let's be honest.
There's very few 5s on that one, I think.
Right,
out there,
exactly.
But for that reason, it pains me to say it, but I'm going to have to go to 3 here.
I'll match your 3. Somewhat significant in terms of uniqueness and success, and I think. Honestly, a big part of that, pulling them up there, is their success on the ice hockey rink and Zlatan Ibrahimovic probably pulling them out of, putting them in the limelight.
He's
years.
Probably what takes it from a 2 to a 3, in fact. You could argue.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say so. So that's on sport. Sweden scoring quite well so far. Very well. We're proud of you. Let's also remember, listeners, that there is a per capita ranking as well, which we will calculate into all our scorecards. So,
look at that.
To be able to be even more objective.
Love it.
Neil, we reserved the 6th category as a wild card,
yes,
and you brought this one forward this time. Do you want to share?
Absolutely. So, in the world of furniture, and you know exactly where I'm going now, there is perhaps no bigger player on the world stage, no more impactful player on the world stage than IKEA. And really, like, I can't emphasize enough what a fan I am of IKEA. You heard already that I love the meatballs. I don't even particularly love the style of the furniture. So it's not that I'm in love with like their design choices. They're nice. They're cool. Basically every young person's apartment in Europe, I guess, is full of IKEA stuff. So it becomes very samey very quickly. It's not that. It's just that their concept and their consistency and execution is so great, so efficient, so enjoyable, so cool for me to come in and see something so different. And so revolutionary in an otherwise very stuffy field, furniture, right? Often overcome by luxury and just excess and overpriced stuff. You're getting a very compelling price on some pretty compelling furniture. A lot of it, especially if you go one level up from the lowest level in IKEA, you can actually get really good stuff, good kitchens, good beds, good sofas, you name it.
Wow. Yeah.
I just love it. And I think it's so on point. It's so clear in what it is as a brand and what they are here and not here to talk about and do. And no wonder they're a global success, and no wonder everyone has struggled to match them in cheap furniture. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I've had my beefs with IKEA, but I think IKEA is for Sweden what the export of the Thai restaurant has been for Thailand.
Yeah, 100%. It literally puts the meatballs on the map. Like
absolutely,
for
and
people,
the gingerbread cookies, whatever you want.
Exactly. And look at the bravery of their naming choices. Like, they have stuck with calling every single item of furniture a Swedish word.
An unpronounceable one.
Yeah, exactly. Even though it's impronounceable, because they know that's what they're all about. They don't care. And if people are going to just butcher whatever Swedish word their sofa is, they don't care. They're like, well, that's us. Deal with it, So I love that. I buy that. I'm a huge fan. So I'm not saying it's the be all end all best furniture company in the world or anything like that. And as I said, I'm not like the biggest fan of their designs specifically. So for that reason, I'm not giving it a 5, but this to me is a 4.
Okay, I'm giving it a 5.
Whoa.
Yeah?
Damn.
The first thing when you think of furniture, you think of IKEA. Oftentimes, not necessarily us, but when people think of Sweden, they think of IKEA
100%.
and vice versa. So I give it a 5.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That is huge.
And I've had so much beef with IKEA, having to call them. I couldn't assemble things, also very much due to my own incompetence.
Exactly. But I'd rather have a beef with IKEA than buy an overpriced sofa from Luxury Sofa Co.,
Well, there you go.
and wait a month for it to be delivered and all that kind of stuff,
So 5 from you,
Wow,
5
4
from me,
yeah.
4 from you.
Yeah.
That's a 4.5 on the wild
Sure
card.
is still very generous. And that will probably swing Sweden right back up in the rankings.
Sweden is right back up in the rankings to a total, are you ready? Drum roll, please, of 19.5.
Okay. Out of a possible 30.
Out of a possible 30, so very competitive.
Respectable.
It is a tier 3 country, which is very strong.
It sounds...
Hey, show some respect.
I know. It just sounds bad when you say tier 3, but no, true. Out of what is it, 5 tiers we have in total? Or,
out of 6 tiers.
6 tiers, That's tier 3,
Very proud of them. And then we will also, after this, of course, count the score per capita. But any final reflections on Sweden's contribution to the pop culture and peak Sweden potential?
My reflection is, I feel like we were fair and also possibly a little harsh, right? Due to nothing else other than our own ignorance, maybe. But then again, that is the point of this exercise, right? It's for ignorant people like us to rank these things and say what impact they've had on us as non-Swedes,
Exactly.
So I know if I was Swedish listening to this, probably I wouldn't have any hair left at this point because I would have torn it all out with frustration of how badly we know things about Sweden, right? But the main point, I suppose, is we're here to talk about it from an outsider's perspective, and that's where these numbers come from, right? No judgment in Sweden. We love Sweden, and if it happens to come out as a tier 3 country, okay, that's not the best, but then again, nobody's perfect.
Absolutely. We'll quickly recap how we got there. Sweden scored a 5 out of 5 on music, a 2.5 on film and TV, a 2.5 on literature, a 2 on cuisine, 3 on sport, and a 4.5 on the wild card, brought to you by IKEA.
Amazing. I think it's decent. There's none of those numbers there that I'm like, appalled by it. I think they're all fair,
Absolutely. No, much respect to Sweden. And it was very fun to do this, to learn about Sweden. Hopefully you all, listeners, also learned a thing or two. And let us know what you think about some of the next countries that should come up in this.
Absolutely. I think we'll take the steer from the listeners on that one. So whichever has the most interest for us to do next, I think that's the one we'll do.
Absolutely. And remember, listeners, the world is our oyster. And yours.